Our tale kicks off with a bloke claiming he's going to bestow a gift before offing the fellow he's calling a commoner. The chap instructs him to use a spell, and the lad does as he's told. The bloke then goes on about how magic is beneath him and could only be the work of a pleb. According to the magic patriarch William Bordeaux, lineage, talent, and effort were the trifecta for a wizard. Effort, as he put it, was the broadest prerequisite. In other words, no amount of effort would matter without talent or lineage. Magic would never smile upon a pawn like him, so said the bloke to the lad he dubbed a commoner. And then he casts a spell on the lad he dubbed a commoner. The lad receives the magic and exclaims it's magnificent, the kind of magic only a talented noble could wield. He feels the magic's heat and pain. He genuinely finds it magnificent. If he could, he'd delve deeper into magic, until he wakes up surrounded by some maids, not knowing where he is. He thinks the girls are giants and decides to defend himself with a fireball, realizing his hands are small. But right at that moment, he unleashes a massive explosion, and thus the seventh prince of the Saloum Kingdom is born. His name, Lloyd. The maids are startled by what they've just witnessed. They can't believe this baby just blasted a hole in the ceiling. Fast forward, the maids search for the prince, who's now much older. He's really dodging them, but just as he's sneaking out, two men catch him. He shushes them, begging them not to spill the beans to the maids. They assure him they'll keep the secret and ask if he'd like to go hunting, as it's a royal pastime. But Lloyd hasn't heard a word. He's already tiptoeing away. He's bolted, as per usual. He was much younger than his other siblings and was out of the running for the throne. Winning his favor wasn't worth it, but the other disagreed. Because he spoke right after he was born and read magic books instead of illustrated ones. Lloyd refused breast milk as if it were the epitome of chivalry. Besides, he believed that Lloyd was the reincarnation of the great William Bordeaux. The other lad doubted he was the father of magic. The lad was right, he had a point. Lloyd had been reborn, he was a reincarnate, but he was just a commoner resident of Salamite. Meanwhile, the maids kept searching for Lloyd. Lloyd kept hiding from them. He never understood why he retained his memories or how he was reborn as a privileged person. After all, he was reincarnated as the seventh prince of the royal family's kingdom. Lloyd didn't care about titles or glory. His philosophy hadn't changed since his past life. Now he was discovering so many incredible magics in that palace. That was all he cared about. It made his eyes sparkle. The collection was wonderful, incomparable to the Saloum Magic Academy. He grabs one of the grimoires until the maid finds him. Her name is Silfa. She begins Lloyd's sword training. They use wooden swords to practice his strikes and defense, until Silfa manages to break through his defense. Lloyd doubts whether the seventh prince, who had no chance of ascending to the throne, really needed sword lessons. Silfa says that succession isn't everything. As a member of royalty, it's appropriate that he knows how to wield a sword. It's been 3 years since she took on the task of educating Lloyd. It's practically the meaning of life for Silfa. Lloyd thinks that if he slacks off, the lesson will last all day. Silfa wants to continue the training, so they return to it.
Silfa finds it amazing how Lloyd grows stronger every day.
Lloyd finds it somewhat obvious because Silfa always held back, and also at that moment, he was using a control-type magic to trace all her movements. It was like Silfa was fighting against a mirror. He was cheating because he wanted to read the grimoire right away, until Silfa manages to break through his defense again. Even so, the differences in strength, energy, and height between them, Lloyd could copy her techniques, but these small differences were enough to put him at a disadvantage and lose. So, on that day, Lloyd would conduct an experiment. He would cover the difference with another cheat. And then he uses a technique called biological growth, physical enhancement, making his sword grow, and right on the first attack, Silfa already notices a difference. Now he could cover the difference and deal with Silfa. And while she was fighting against a mirror, Lloyd wonders what would happen if he made a different move out of nowhere. And then he performs that move, going to her back. Silfa wasn't expecting it. Lloyd apologizes because he wanted to read right away, but she manages to defend herself and asks if he's cheating. Silfa knocks him down, and then she says she noticed the difference in Lloyd's reach right away. He had made his sword grow to increase its range and levitated to cover the height difference, so they were almost at the same level. But instead of lecturing Lloyd, she becomes proud, saying he's amazing and very talented because he activated 2 magics at the same time. Even the court wizards would have difficulty doing that. And she hugs Lloyd, who remains poker-faced, thinking she hadn't noticed the physical enhancement and control magic. The truth is, he was using 4 magics at once, but it's better to keep quiet. Later, he was angry because he wanted to take a bath alone, but the maids insisted. Silfa says he couldn't. If she took her eyes off him, he would be immersed in books, not in the bathtub. So she wouldn't let him bathe alone. And Lloyd doesn't understand how this happened. He just wanted to go in search of his magics. The other maids say that if he's a naughty boy and doesn't obey, the demon from the Forbidden Library will eat him. He doesn't understand when they talk about the demon from the library. They explain that a long time ago, Saloum was almost destroyed, and only after the sacrifice of several wizards, the demon was sealed in a book. Its name was Grimoire, and it was said to be sealed in the Forbidden Library in the castle's basement. But for Silfa, it was just a story. Even if it's true, a sealed demon couldn't do anything. It was ridiculous. The girls get annoyed with Silfa talking, and she continues saying that Lloyd wouldn't be afraid of such a childish story. However, they thought he was really scared, finding it super cute. One offers her bed for Lloyd to sleep in, but Silfa doesn't accept it because it was her duty as his teacher. And one of them says it would be fairer to invite him to sleep in the maid's dormitory. And meanwhile, young Lloyd sneaks away while they argue. He's very happy because there's a forbidden library in the castle's basement. Later, Lloyd goes there and uses a type of air magic called concealment. It was magic that uses the flow of air to refract light and make the user invisible. One of the guards was dozing off, and the other tells him not to let his guard down. Supposedly, there was magic in that forbidden library that could shake the whole kingdom, along with a powerful demon that was sealed. For Lloyd, all of that seemed great. As he descended the staircase, the guard doubted that there would be a bandit who could bypass their security, considering that a child was easily doing it. Lloyd enters the library and is amazed, not understanding how he lived there for 10 years without knowing there was such an interesting section. He would have to put the barrier back after he finished checking the place. Suddenly, one of the books starts floating and laughing, saying it was impressed because a kid managed to break the seal of the door, and Lloyd asks who he is. And the demon thinks he's quite scattered and says his name is Grimoire, asking who he is. Lloyd says his name, and Grimoire asks if he could break his seal. And Lloyd understands that he was the forbidden demon from the book. Grimoire says that one day it will break because it was worn out from time. It was only a matter of time before it happens. And Grimoire says he could give Lloyd whatever gold he wanted if he did that. Lloyd realizes that the gold is actually a low-level creation magic. Grimoire had forced some pebbles to turn into gold. Grimoire is shocked because Lloyd says it's low quality and lacks resistance. Furthermore, Lloyd would put the seal back. Lloyd's magic study was based on that kingdom, so he couldn't let a dangerous demon threaten the place. And Grimoire says that whoever sealed him was from centuries ago. He didn't hate anyone from the present. Lloyd doesn't believe it, and Grimoire asks if he wouldn't like to learn ancient magic, the magic that was lost centuries ago, saying he could teach. Lloyd, upon hearing that, becomes extremely eager. Lloyd asks if he will teach him, and Grimoire says yes without hesitation. Grimoire saw that he had talent for magic. Lloyd remembers his past life, with the man saying that if he didn't have talent or lineage, magic would never smile upon a pawn like him. Lloyd then thinks if magic is linked to lineage and talent indeed, he had a more privileged body than a commoner. Grimoire doesn't disagree, and then Lloyd breaks the seal that imprisoned Grimoire. He couldn't believe the child actually broke the seal. And Lloyd asks him to teach ancient magic. and the demon simply tries to kill him with a powerful magic attack. Grimoire says that it was a dark shot, asking if Lloyd learned, and wonders what he will do from that moment on. However, Lloyd defends himself using a magical shield. Lloyd thinks it's really cool, a different magic, with unique composition and design, even the way of casting was different. And Lloyd asks him to show more. Grimoire gets angry, telling him to stop underestimating. And he starts attacking the boy, but the barrier is too strong, and he can't do anything. Meanwhile, Lloyd thinks that the mana waves seem to be quite simple. He found it fascinating. The boy would like to understand that magic with his own body. It was a bad habit of Lloyd's, maybe he would die again this way, and he replicates the magic, and Grimoire doesn't understand. Lloyd finds it very interesting. He says it hurts, but it's beautiful. He stops and his finger is hurt. He tells Grimoire that he would like to learn more. It was a special type of conjuration that only a demon capable of having two mouths could use, combining two magics so that they work together as if they were one. Although, in terms of effect, it's like an advanced version of that shot Grimoire had made before. And after Grimoire launches it, he is incredulous because it was his most powerful magic, and it had no effect on Lloyd. Lloyd finds Grimoire's magic very good and thinks he had a lot of fun learning it. Memorizing countless formulas, controlling his mana flow, and increasing his wisdom, there's nothing better than that for Lloyd. Grimoire watches all that with frustration. He didn't understand what was wrong with that child. He couldn't keep up with him. And when he tries to leave, he bumps into the wall because there was a barrier. The castle was right above, so Lloyd didn't want to risk it. Grimoire asks if Lloyd thought he would escape. Lloyd says that once he messed up in the past, so he wanted to be cautious. Grimoire tells him to stop talking nonsense and prepares to attack again. And then, at that moment, Lloyd asks him to show a defensive magic and launches the impetuous fireball skill. Grimoire is shocked by the amount of mana that Lloyd dispersed, and he can't defend himself from that attack. Grimoire lies on the ground, completely wounded, and Lloyd asks him why he didn't defend himself. Grimoire wonders who that little boy is. Then we see Lloyd tidying up the library all at once, while Grimoire is shocked because the boy restored the place perfectly quickly and easily. It was the first time he had seen such an incredible wizard up close. And Lloyd realizes that demons don't die from magic, but Grimoire still feels pain. However, Lloyd wants to know how much he can take. Grimoire gives up and promises loyalty so that Lloyd would accept him as a familiar. Lloyd sees Grimoire as an experiment and says that he couldn't take him that way, and asks him to transform into something smaller, and Grimoire transforms into something extremely cute. And then Lloyd asks Grimoire to get into his clothes, but the demon could control his mind and occupy his body if it stuck to Lloyd's body like that, and after he touches the boy, he is shocked at how dense Lloyd's mana is, considering him a mana monster. Grimoire is shocked and asks Lloyd to call him Grim. Lloyd is happy that now he would read a lot.